He's very unflappable. He's very in charge. He knows exactly what he wants. He knows exactly how to get it. He'll just come to you, you know, and just say something quietly in your ear and be like, got it?
Blade Runner's opening contrasts an immense futuristic landscape with the close-up of an eye, a massive shift in scale reflecting one of Ridley Scott's key themes, the smallness of humanity in a vast and mysterious universe.
When he tackles a world, and he's good at worlds, you know, that's what he does, worlds. He does the epic on, like, a small scale. It's weird.
He really is a master of creating worlds that are utterly absorbing, utterly believable.
Ridley Scott has reimagined and revived some of Hollywood's favorite genres, shaping the way we think about both our future and our past.
He seems to be more from the mold of the great studio directors of the golden age of Hollywood in the 30s and 40s, who could move effortlessly between every kind of genre.
Ridley has two sides to him. The one side that is a field general, and he can build, you know, and destroy mountains. On the other side, there's this very gentle, empathic person, and that dichotomy is infused into his films.
He has a real ear for any kind of bullshit. He'll do a scene and he'll come and he'll say, well, I don't believe it. He wants to see it coming from somewhere really real.
Ridley Scott was born in an industrial British town just before World War II.
A lot of what has informed Ridley's work is the fact that he's kind of this guy from the north of England whose father was in the military, and he has this kind of stiff upper lip thing.
Trained as a visual artist, Scott formed an advertising company with his younger brother Tony in the late 60s. After making nearly 2,000 commercials, the director put up his own money to help finance his first feature.
The Duelists is about two Napoleonic soldiers who keep fighting each other over many decades until the whole initial point of their disagreement has been completely obscured.
In The Soldier's Third Duel, Scott emphasized the futility of violence by having the men fight to exhaustion with no clear winner.
You feel the visceral impact of that fight, and that there is no right or wrong. And this is somehow the essence of warfare.
I was just like blown away by The Duelist. This incredibly beautiful film that launches this career for him in a way of creating characters who inhabit a real world.
The Duelists becomes really his entree to make movies in America.
He asked me what I thought of the script, and I was kind of negative about it. And then he whips out all these incredible drawings of H.R. Giger's designs in order to convey to me how original and stunning and scary and Freudian this movie was going to be.
Ridley Scott's breakthrough film, Alien, is set on a cargo ship that's infiltrated by an acid-bleeding space beast.
That notion of combining science fiction with horror and making it all feel really real. The conversations between people feel real, the characters feel real, the aliens feel real. It was just so unlike anything you'd seen in a movie before.
We're among these real people sitting around having breakfast.
What's the matter? The food ain't that bad, baby.
And then suddenly this thing that we're not expecting happens. The timing is so ingenious, and so you jump.
The alien's first appearance is a grotesque perversion of motherhood and birth.
You forgot it was a movie. It was the most terrifying thing I've ever seen.
Ridley taps into what is primal. The notion that, like, there's something else inside of you, and it may have its own mind, is so disturbing. It stuck with you for, you know, ever.
Until then, honestly, I think most sci-fi had been kind of like sparkly and clean. And this is like a big old diesel truck. It's so lived in.
When the engineer goes looking for the crew's missing cat, Scott's attention to detail makes the ship seem almost like a living organism.
There's just these little sounds that freak you out, you know, just before there's something about to happen.
A hissing sound, part insect, part machine, suggests that the alien is both an intruder and part of the ship itself.
He made you afraid of aliens in the same way that, like, Spielberg made you afraid to swim in the ocean because of Jaws, you know?
As unforgettable as Alien's monster was, the film had an equally memorable leading woman in Sigourney Weaver's Ellen Ripley.
Alien wasn't really a feminist statement. The writers made Ripley the survivor, honestly, because they thought this will be the last thing anyone expects, that this unknown girl ends up being the hero.
When the alien stows away on her escape pod, Scott uses Ripley's partial nudity to emphasize her vulnerability.
He was very interested in how the alien would want to touch this creature rather than kill it. And I thought that was such a cool idea, that it was a little Beauty and the Beast.
Putting Ripley in an armor-like spacesuit, the director transforms the damsel in distress into a warrior.
In the ending, Ripley is going to be the person who saves herself or not. He's very attracted to female characters who are the captains of their own ship.
Alien sets in motion the idea that you can have tough women at the center of big Hollywood spectacle films.
Alien and Blade Runner, just those two, stand as, you know, two of the greatest science fiction movies of all time.
In Blade Runner, Scott made the future into a commentary on the present, exaggerating trends of contemporary urban design to create a dystopian vision of Los Angeles in 2019.
And that scene, the sort of Tokyo, New York City, neon billboard existence, combined with the futurist technology, was so fully realized that you would immerse into it, and I think the most extraordinary visual world that's ever been put on screen.
With Blade Runner, there's a whole generation of MTV directors that took that slick, dark, shadowy world and put it into pop videos or whatever else.
In Blade Runner, Harrison Ford plays Deckard, a bounty hunter tracking a group of renegade androids called replicants, who are trying to extend their built-in 4-year lifespans.
You have the tension between what does it mean to be a real human or an artificial one.
Do you mind if I smoke?
It won't affect the test.
When Deckard conducts an android detection test on a beautiful replicant, Scott blurs eras and genres, grounding his science fiction fantasy in the moody lighting and snappy dialogue of hard-boiled 1940s crime movies.
You're reading a magazine, you come across a full-page nude photo of a girl.
Is this testing whether I'm a replicant or a lesbian, Mr. Deckard?
Ridley's able to inform this person we think of as a robot without any feelings with something so fresh and personal.
It is, at its core, about the question of what makes us human and how you define being human, and also the gift of life and the curse of death.
Rutger Hauer plays the chief replicant Roy Batty, whose quest for survival stands in contrast with Deckard's mission of murder.
You know, bad guys in movies are usually motivated by wanting to kill or wanting to acquire power. And the bad guy in this movie just wants to survive. He just wants to live.
You have shafts of light and spinning propellers. The design is as heightened in a way as what's happening emotionally with the two characters in the scene.
When Batty rescues Deckard in the film's climax, the nail in his hand suggests that he's become a mechanical Christ, sacrificing himself to save a flawed humanity.
You feel that Roy Batty wants to die, and that this is his gift to Deckard. He has this very melodramatic soliloquy.
Like tears
that turns into operatic suicide.
In rain.
And the end of that movie is really letting go.
Time to die.
And actually accepting the humanity of death.
Blade Runner blew people's minds because it was such a complete vision of the future, as if Ridley had been there and come back and was showing us it in all of its terrifying reality.
But it was with a feminist twist on the road movie that the cinematic time traveler would have his greatest cultural impact yet.
My agent was calling Ridley's office every week for a year. And then finally, Ridley said, yes, I will meet with Geena. So I go to the meeting with like a year's worth of passion and ideas, all about why I absolutely had to play Louise. And then I found Susan. The instant I met her, I was like, obviously, I have to be Thelma, and she has to be Louise.
Thelma and Louise stars Geena Davis and Susan Sarandon as best friends on a weekend getaway.
I can't think of another director who would make those women come to life with the most awful men one can imagine.
I said I'm not gonna hurt you, all right?
Thelma's vacation becomes a nightmare when she's attacked behind a bar. The director uses a tight frame to underline her inability to escape.
Women are used to seeing themselves treated in a very demeaning fashion by a lot of movies, in both overt and less overt ways.
Looks like you got a real up idea of fun.
The moment where they shoot the would-be rapist is a cathartic moment for a lot of people.
I should have gone ahead and
By having Louise kill the attacker not in self-defense, but because of his sexist taunt, Scott's road movie becomes a vehicle for social commentary.
It's almost like a feminist movement movie, you know what I mean? Ridley, who is such a masculine director, takes on this movie about two women going up and driving across America, against the world.
The shooting transforms Thelma and Louise into outlaws heading for Mexico.
Thelma has the most arc of any character that I've played, because she has to go from being a sort of mousy housewife to a road warrior. All that scenery is a great metaphor for us becoming more expansive. Ridley took this very intimate story about these two women and made it epic.
The landscapes, they're almost shot like a John Ford Western. Instead of it just being a movie that was about two people in a car, it was about two people in a car in a world that was bigger than them.
Thelma and Louise became a rallying cry for female audiences.
The reaction was like nothing that I had ever seen before. It really brought home to me, in a powerful way, how few opportunities we give women to feel excited and inspired by the female characters.
He's done basically every genre you can do. In one form or another, he's made it his. And you could look at it and you could feel, both visually and I think actually emotionally, that it's a Ridley Scott movie.
Based on a disastrous U.S. military mission during the Somalian Civil War, Ridley Scott's Black Hawk Down is one of the most intense and immersive depictions of combat in film history.
Black Hawk Down was like my second film, and I was 22. There was a lot of testosterone, big movie stars. Rid was very much the commander-in-chief. He knew what he wanted. His vision was super clear. I was playing Blackburn, who was a real character. Wet behind the ears, green, naive squatty who's going up and makes the first error. When they shot us coming in, it's all about his pacing. He sort of reels you in real slow. Gonna get each individual's face and how they're feeling, the tension's building.
2 minutes!
There's a sense of the incredible fragility of youth. The folly of war is a theme that recurs throughout his work.
As the U.S. chopper comes under attack by the Somali militia, Scott's precise editing makes clarity out of chaos.
During the conflict, you know who everyone is, and you're able to track them. And even if the cutting is fast, you always preserve these spatial relationships.
Blackburn falls from the helicopter, and then I'm on the ground, and then it's just all hell breaks loose.
The director uses a 360-degree tracking shot to drive home that the soldiers are surrounded.
You're trapped inside of a firefight, and the pace of the sequence echoes that.
He would shoot 4 or 5 cameras at the same time, like someone who's directing live sports. Ridley's watching each camera, knowing which piece he's going to use as it's being shot. He has an eye and a brain for cinema, unlike anything I've ever seen.
In 2000, Ridley Scott emulated one of his cinematic idols by reimagining a vanished genre.
He's very influenced by David Lean. David Lean enjoyed painting on the largest possible canvas, Lawrence of Arabia, Bridge on the River Kwai, Ryan's Daughter. Gladiator, in a way, revived a certain kind of historical epic that had not really been seen since the 1960s.
Russell Crowe stars as Maximus, a Roman general who becomes a gladiator seeking revenge on the evil new emperor who had his family murdered.
This is one of the first sequences to use extensively CGI to create crowds and crowd scenes.
Scott adopts the gladiator's on-the-ground perspective to capture the overwhelming effect of the Colosseum's grand spectacle on his hero Maximus.
His powerful leads don't rely on their physical prowess. They tend to actually be stratagems.
The director has Maximus deploy his military skill to defend the gladiators, and uses modern camera angles and editing to inject a new intensity into the historical drama.
Even though there's epic things going on, it still feels very personal.
You know, the thing that always kind of caught me in Gladiator was just like Russell's hand moving through the grass. It's Rid doing the huge and then the very small. You really feel his hand as it passes through. It creates an emotion in you.
He read Robin Hood, and he read about Roman history, and he read about the Crusades. I think he really wants them to come to life for everybody, as they kind of did for him when he was young.
Ridley Scott's Kingdom of Heaven stars Orlando Bloom as Balian, a blacksmith who ends up leading the defense of Jerusalem during the 12th century wars between Christians and Muslims.
I think at the time it was the largest set that had ever been built, you know, and it was like 4 football pitches together.
Which is more holy?
When Balian rallies the defenders of Jerusalem,
The wall? The mosque?
his dialogue transforms an epic into an allegory
Who has claim?
about religious tolerance.
No one has claim. All have claim.
In Kingdom of Heaven and Gladiator and Black Hawk Down, you can find some imprint of the duelists. Every side thinks they're right, and they will pursue whatever their agenda is till the end.
Ridley has that social conscience and awareness, and that's what he wants to bring to the world, I think, in most of his films. There's something bigger being explained.
Ridley, when we were doing Alien, would sometimes mention his brother Tony. I think they were really competitive, as well as very supportive.
In 2012, Tony Scott committed suicide following a long fight with cancer.
It was a moment in Ridley's life where he was coming out of having made a couple dark movies in a row, having gone through some dark stuff in his personal life with his brother's death, where he was ready to sort of open up and laugh. And so I think that Martian for Rid was cathartic. And it's a movie that is, at its core, a very hopeful film.
Matt Damon plays an astronaut left stranded on Mars after his crew thinks he was killed in a dust storm.
The enormity of that Mars landscape is kind of stunning to behold. You can see the imprint of David Lean's large canvas, Matt Damon against this enormous desert. This sense of how small we are in the cosmos is something that we see echoed in Ridley Scott's movies.
The thing that is true, I think, in all of his films is they're about survival. Martian is about how Matt uses his mind, more than his body, to survive. When he uses his ingenuity to figure out how to grow potatoes. The way that Ridley shot it, and even the sound design and the music, and that moment when he sees the sort of plant life for the first time, Ridley made you feel the triumph of something so simple and small.
The Martian was a critical favorite and became the most commercially successful film of Scott's career, reinforcing the reputation of a director who's made some of Hollywood's most influential movies.
It's really unique to have that many cultural landmarks in your catalog of films.
When you work on a Ridley Scott film, you feel like you're working on a piece of art. We're all a part of that giant canvas that he's putting together.
One of the reasons he continues to be as vital and relevant at 78 as he was at 38 is that restlessness, the wanting to actually grow and learn as a filmmaker.
I can't imagine him sitting still long enough. You know, he probably has ADD or something, you know, but he just loves it so much. It's just a great adventure every time you work with him, and it's, you know, pedal to the metal, full out.
That's something that I was always blown away by, was just his amount of energy, his, not only his physical energy, but like the energy that exudes off him, and the will, and the desire, and the drive. It's like his Jack Russell with a bone, you know. I'm not gonna give you that. I ain't giving you. You know what I mean? It's like he'll take it all the way. And I love that. I mean, that's why we love it.